Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Late One with yours truly, SYLBOURNE Sydial. Thank you to those on Instagram. How are you? Thank you to those on Facebook and YouTube. And what I'll say to you is to share this show right now because we're going to have a very intriguing show. And of course, all my shows are intriguing because, of course, the only reason why it's intriguing is because of the people that I get on the show. But also, most importantly, is because of the people who are actually watching the show, and that's I'm grateful for. But tonight is a show where I've got Miss Nichole Mcintosh, the Dynamism of Nichole Mcintosh, and I say the nurse with a purpose. And Nichole at presently is currently the regional head of nursing and midwifery at Health Education England in London, and is working closely with partners across London to develop and sustain a world-class nursing and midwifery workforce that is fit for the 21st century and beyond. Now, one of the reasons as well why I think this interview is important because it shed a light on Jamaican nurses in the UK, but also on nurses on a whole. You know, we're coming through the legacy of Mary C. Cole, the statue which came up recently. It shows that Jamaica is on the front line, the cutting edge. We just went through the COVID, even though we're not gone through it yet, but the nurses have been in the trench, in the sea, and actually, after the doctors do what they're bit, I'm not a doctor, but, after they do what they're bit, the nurses are the ones that carry the fort. And the NHS has been on the cutting edge in regards to pandemic. So I want to have a conversation with Miss Mcintosh and also the other things that she does, which, of course, you'll find out in due course, because if I start to say it, I'm taking over the show, and I don't want to take over the show. I want her to be the show. So here we go. I bring her right in now, and let's rock and roll. Good evening, good afternoon. How are you, Miss Mcintosh?
Hello, how are you, SYLBOURNE?
I'm cool in the Malibu, enjoying the sunshine, even though it's in my heart, not outside. How was your day anyhow?
It's been really busy day, but it's the start of the long bank holiday weekend and it's going to be sunny, so we're all smiling.
I always say long bank holiday. It's just one day. Why do people say it's long?
Well, it's long for me. I'm off next week for half term, so it's extra long.
Okay. So you got an extra bonus on top of it there.
Yes.
I always find bank holidays very interesting because everybody goes out on the Monday. And I kind of never work out that. Why do you go on a Monday when you have to go back to work the next day?
Tuesday. It's true.
But personally speaking, I also have been looking forward for this holiday because, I think just like yourself, you have never been out of the world. You're not actually, what should I say, was isolated or quarantined. You're on the trench, isn't it? You didn't stop with COVID.
Well, we'll get onto that. But yes, it has been non-stop. But luckily for me, I've not been actually on the front line. I've been supporting my soldiers, my colleagues on the front line. But yes. It's been a surreal environment.
But can I tell you this? Churchill never went into the battlefield.
Well, that is it.
And guess what? They all talk about Churchill as the one who championed.
That is true. True. Leadership is very important.
Yes.
Leadership is very important to set the strategy, to set the vision, and to ensure that everybody knows the purpose and where we're going. So yes.
Right. Now that's very interesting. And good evening. Hey, Marcos. Good evening, guys on Instagram. And of course, I welcome nurses or so who's watching this show. So let's start, Nichole Mcintosh. I saw you of some interviews, and I saw in the papers whereby you're appointed to this role. I have no idea what it is, but I think it must be something big, because we all have to go to the nurses and the doctors to take care of us. So I'm very intrigued by that. But tell us, who is Nichole Mcintosh?
Well, I am a Jamaican-born nurse.
Can I just say who first?
Well, yeah, I am honored to be on the program, just to kind of show the world what nursing is and what nurses do. And I am Nichole. I'm 46 years old. I'm from Jamaica, as you can hear from my lovely accent.
Yes.
I came here when I was 21, so I've been here quite a while. In fact, I've been in England longer than I was in Jamaica. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's how it is.
Yes.
So I'm a nurse leader. I've had 21 years of experience in the National Health Service, but someone said to me, Nichole, you're more than nursing, actually. And as an introvert, that was quite hard to hear, but I have taken on using the healing arts in terms of poetry, using my voice and my position, my platforms to kind of inspire others.
Yes.
So people tell me that I inspire them, in that I can show my vulnerability while being strong at the same time. So I'm a digital broadcaster, I'm a poet. I use multimedia to engage with wide audiences and to engage people to be their best self and not to hide their light under a bushel. For many years, I hid my light under a bushel. And it was someone who said to me, it's okay for you to be dynamic and to keep it to yourself, but what about those people who need a bit of hope? And that was it for me to kind of push myself forward and do things like this.
That's interesting what you said about you media, blogger, ensuring people can see the light, motivating them, inspiring them. But that's like a nurse at the same time, isn't it?
Well, you see, when you're a nurse, when you're a nurse, the world is your oyster. There is nothing you can't do, because it's not an easy job. But what it is, it teaches you to advocate for others. It teaches you empathy and compassion. And it teaches you to be a leader, because you have to lead, because you have patients and your families who are depending on you. So the skills that you get are transferable in all aspects of life. So when you're a nurse, when you train to be a nurse, you're set for life.
It's interesting you said that. And I, of course, maybe I'm going off script or whatever like that. And I've said I just want to have this conversation. During the course of the pandemic, they spoke about a lot of people who weren't able to say goodbye to their families, but it was a nurse who was there by the bed, who actually was taking the pictures, doing the selfies, being that person that actually held their mother or their father while they passed away. Those nurses was on the core front of the whole thing, leading that charge there, isn't it?
Yes, I think it's important for people to understand that nurses spend the most time with patients.
Yes.
We are patient advocates through and through. And it was no surprise to me that the nurses were the ones who were really the ones who were able to ensure that there was some process in place for relative to say goodbye. It was sad that we had to resort to using cameras to say goodbye. And some nurses had to say goodbye on behalf of families. And that has taken a toll on nurses' health and well-being. There are nurses who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of their experiences that are ongoing at the moment. So we're not out of the pandemic. There is a potential wave 3. But yes, it's important to know that nurses are the glue that holds the healthcare system together. Without nursing, it would fall apart. Other professions are very important. The doctors come and go, but it's the nurse who is there 24 hours of the day.
Wow. That is so powerful. I just saw some person on Instagram saying, good evening, super. Hi, Marlo.
Hello.
And Dawn Rising, Nichole is such an inspiration. You got a fan club as well, I must say.
Oh my, no, I'm a member of her fan club. We're going to go to Leeds. We're going to go to Leeds Festival and have a party. So yeah.
Oh wow.
We have plans.
with the mask or
well, we're hoping that we will be out of the pandemic by then, but we might have a virtual one. I'm waiting for her to invite me. So she's wonderful.
So can you tell me, we're going to go on to further as to what the role is, and but when did you know that this would be your profession, nurse?
Well, you see, I was always caring, I was always caring. But back then, nursing wasn't seen as something academic, and my dad was a head teacher. So you were destined to do something that was highly academic back in the day. Not now, we've changed the image of nursing. But I knew very, very early that I was compassionate, that I was empathetic, that I was kind. And I remember once my mom visited a friend, Mrs. Laurie, who was in the hospital, and my mom was scared to go and get something in the toilet, and I just walked in. I think I was about 8 or 9. And I remember people were remarking how comfortable I was in a hospital setting. That was Savlamar Hospital in Westmoreland, Jamaica.
Yes.
But I was always someone who would look out for others and their needs. So when I came to the UK in 1996 and the opportunity came to be a nurse, it was divine intervention.
So you follow back on me. I came 92.
Really? Well, I was following behind you then, man.
Follow back on me.
Definitely. Yes. So I think nursing is not for everybody, you know. You have to be kind. You have to be compassionate. You have to be someone who doesn't judge. We can't judge the patients who we who we care for. We might have different beliefs. They might be racist, but I still have to care for them. You know, so it takes a lot to be a nurse, but it's very rewarding. You get a lot of satisfaction from knowing that because you care, somebody else is getting better, and it's a privilege to care.
Is that the reason why, you know, okay, a lot of nurses and a friend of mine has actually did a petition for 100,000 or so for there to be a day for nurses and for health workers, you know, instead of just clapping, but something more substantial, which is more pay and all those sort of things. Yes. Is that the reason why nurses, while at the same time they would like more pay, they still have that compelling desire to still be in the trench and they will not pull back? And that is why it's also difficult for them, because they can't separate themselves from that caring aspect of their patients and looking after you.
Well, the clapping was good, but you know, the pay would be better. That's what I would say. You know, we can't feed our families on claps. So
yes.
I think paying a decent wage for decent work is only to be expected. I think we have Nurses Day. I think what we need is more than just a day. We need the image of nursing and nursing as a profession, and to attract new, dynamic, you know, and energetic people into the profession. I think it's quite difficult as a nurse, as you say, to pull back. And a lot of people don't even take up leadership roles because you think it's going to take you away from the patient. Yes. But actually, what I've found, because I was one of them, what I've found is that when you get into a leadership position as a compassionate, caring person, you can influence even greater. So you influence strategy, you influence policy. So you're able to set the tone as to how people are treated, your team is treated, and that filters down to the patient. So yes. You still have an impact.
That's very interesting, and I like how you bring that point, and it brings me to the next question, because you're now currently the regional head of nursing and midwifery at Health Education England. So that is like a strategic position there.
Yes.
That is where you're talking about how you now, with your mind, and I think this is so crucial, because I always say to people all the while, it's very important that we are positioned at the table.
Okay.
And if we're not at the table, we got to get a table. In there. But set the stage as to what is that role and how do you see that impact?
Yeah. So yes, it's a strategic role. So we have 7 regions across England, and London is one, and that's where I am. So I'm leading the nursing and midwifery team in London. So we are really about education, training, development of our current workforce so that we're fit for the future, as well as our future workforce. So we attract new people in. So when I do programs like this, I'm attracting people to say, oh my goodness, I didn't know that nurses could do that. I thought if you're a nurse, you couldn't talk about other things. But my role is to kind of be a leader who is compassionate but transformational. So we're working with the universities and the providers in London to say, what do our current nurses need to develop, development and training and retaining the staff that we have, but also what can we do to encourage people in our local community to want to become healthcare workers? And we have apprenticeships, we have nursing associate roles. So it's not, if somebody says, well, I don't have the education to do it, we have different ways of supporting them into the profession. So it's a real strategic role, working with the NHS England and improvement, and working with my colleagues, as I said, in the primary care, make sure we have nurses in the community. So it's really partnership working. It's quite senior. You don't get many nurses from ethnic minority backgrounds in these roles, but Health Education England has done really well, because when I was appointed, 2 other nurses from a Black minority ethnic background were also appointed. And in a diverse environment, it's important for people to see people look like them getting ahead. You talked about being at the table. We have to be at the table. We have to be at the table to influence change so that policies will make sure that they include equality, diversity, and inclusion. If we're not at the table, we are not part of the solution. And it will be a kind of a done to. We'll be done to. Our communities might not get policies that are culturally appropriate and competent. So it's a role that I have started in November last year, 2020. Settling in. It's hard to start a new role in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes.
So we're working virtually, and over the next couple of months, we'll be starting up face-to-face working.
That's very inspirational, what you're talking about. So you're seeing, as a result of your role, you're seeing you can bring yourself into it and bring your creative energy into it as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, there is a real dynamic nature that Health Education England, we call it HE, that we work, where you bring your authentic self to work. You know, you're empowered and enabled to be yourself. So that is the best place to work in the NHS.
I want to ask you a question though, and this is something that many people will ask in regards to nurses coming over from the Caribbean, for argument's sake. Let's use the Caribbean for argument's sake. What is like the challenge for that, and is there a challenge in that respect now for nurses coming over from the Caribbean? What's the support sort of network, or what was it like for you? Let's say, what was it like for you? Let's use you as a pilot scheme then.
Yeah, well, it was different for me because I wasn't a nurse yet. So I came over as a 21-year-old, and I started my nurse training here. So it's different. So that is a culture shock, you know, like an immigrant. But if you're already a nurse and you're coming over to the UK, then there are different challenges. So international recruitment has to be done ethically. So we can't have the brain drain where we're robbing the nurses from Jamaica and other countries into the UK, and we're paying them a load of money compared to what they would earn. That would be unfair to the Jamaican economy and the Jamaican people, and we're not going to be part of that. So if we're going to have recruitment of nurses from Jamaica and other Caribbean countries, we need to make sure that we're working with the Jamaican government. So we have a proper systematic process of staggering it, that we have quotas, that we have different, checks and balances in. But it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for cultural exchange. It's an opportunity for our nurses here to go over and for nurses there to come over, because we bring different things to the table and we can learn from each other. So I get a lot of people contacting me about how is it that they can get a job in National Health Service, and I direct them to the proper channels. But it's important for us to remember that if nurses in the Caribbean are not paid a decent living wage, then we can't expect them to stay and suffer. They will look to America, they will look to Canada, they look to the UK to come. So we have to support that, in ways that are sustainable but ethical and fair.
Yeah, because the brain drain can be, what I understand is like the Philippines, for argument's sake, they got a surplus of nurses. The Caribbean, of course, we're in a tricky situation there. We're not, as you say, we're not paying them that much.
Yes.
They don't want them to stay.
Yes, some countries build it in terms of how many nurses they train, that a portion of those will go abroad. And the Philippines is one of those that does that. But you see, these are larger countries, they have more staff. What I worry about sometimes is that, yes, we want to support people to have ethical recruitment, but how do we do that on a long-term basis? The EU exit didn't really help the situation in terms of the UK. The market from the EU has kind of gone down a bit. So that's why we have to, in the UK, focus on our domestic market. And, we go into schools, and we talk to school children about careers. And you have to start even early, even 10, 11, so that they see nurses, that we're not handmaidens to doctors. Come on, you haven't met nurses if you think that they're just going to go around following people and doing as they're told. We are dynamic, highly trained staff. So we start early to encourage people to come in. So that we can rely less on international recruitment.
Yeah. Ms. Samuel just asked, in relation to working with Jamaica, are there going to be more exchanges so that the nurses in Jamaica can add to their practice?
Well, there are different programs that are in development. just at the early stages of finding out what those programs are, and I'm making sure that I'm at that table to influence and to be an advisor. But I think I think it's important for her to liaise with the Jamaican government, the Nurses Association of
Yes.
Jamaica. There's work that's being done. I'm not as close to it as I would like to be, but over the next couple of months, I'm going to get more familiar, and then we can make sure that it's advertised well and that that it's a fair process.
And as you mentioned that about the Nurses Association of Jamaica, because I've been talking to Paulette Lewis. She was a former president of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, UK, and now she's in the process of putting together a Caribbean bloc, Caribbean Nurses Association of UK as well.
Yes.
And so I'm gonna be doing a specific show with her.
Lovely.
To look at how that can be, because as you rightly say, it's very important that the nurses are supported. As you said, you came in as before you became a nurse, but the nurses are coming over to make sure they don't slip in the crack.
Definitely.
If anything like that,
Paulette is good. I admire Paulette a lot. She's a very kind and caring leader. So yes, I think it would be good to have her on so that she can give further detail.
Yeah. Can you tell me what has been like the biggest influence then in your life in this particular zone? And because I was listening to you at one point, and you can bring this in because of course I do my research on persons. you were talking to someone and you said to them you're showing your age now. Well, you told us your age already. You're showing your age. You said 25 years ago you're promoted from a D something to another position. And
yes.
You were saying that you're going to find yourself in a situation where they're going to be saying you are now the enemy. But
yes, I remember what it is. It was my manager, Richard Johnson. So
yes,
in the year 2000, Richard Johnson was my first manager in the National Health Service, and he was a kind, calm manager. And he taught me that you don't need to have bluster and noise to be effective and to be respected. And that has stuck with me. So I never need to raise my voice. I never need to do any. I never need to say, I am the manager. You just know. So he promoted me from a D to an E grade. That was back in the day. Before we had bands, we had letters, D to E, after 6 months of qualifying. And I remember it caused...
After 6 months of qualifying. You got to break that down. Sorry. After 6 months of qualifying from a D to an E. So what was that level there?
So when you're a D grade, you are a staff nurse.
Yes.
Yeah. So you come out of everyone who qualifies as a nurse is a staff nurse, D grade at the time.
Yes.
Then you get promoted to a senior staff nurse. So it was a E grade, and then after that you would be promoted to a sister. So 6 months was quite short. In my book, it was quite short, and I remember I was happy to be promoted. I'm not stupid. I was happy to be promoted, but the comments that I was getting caused me, in a very young, naive state, to go and knock on his door and say, boy, Richard, look at this, boy, they hate me now, look what you've done, man. And he really was kind, and he said it in the kindest way. He said, get back out there and just ignore them. And I had to learn that in life, not everybody's going to be happy for your success, yeah?
Yes.
But that doesn't mean you must hide your light under a bushel. That just means you need to be comfortable in your position. And you need to say, okay, if Richard or any manager didn't believe in me, they would not have given me the job. Yes. They're not giving it to me as an experiment. They give it to me because they see potential even when I don't see it in myself. So him sending me back out there is the same thing I would do to somebody who came if I was to promote them when I saw potential in them. Because you feel a bit embarrassed, but because you're young. But as you go through life, you realize that was an opportunity that kind of set the tone for your career. It made you have ambition because you realize that if he can promote you within 6 months, the only thing that's going to stop you is yourself. So you kind of carry on.
Well, you see, I brought him as an influence in your life, but I should have actually allowed you to answer the question: who has been the biggest influence in your life, and what lesson did that person teach you? I just have grabbed hold of him.
Yes, the biggest influence in my life is my father. So my father is Basil Chambers in Jamaica, and he's a proud disciplinarian former head teacher. Yeah, no nonsense. Yeah.
So I guess you never get beaten then.
No nonsense. Never hit one of us. Never hit. Didn't need to. Just the look.
Look, yeah.
Just the look. No words needed. And he taught me to have no limits on myself. No limits. You know, even he had 3 daughters, and he never put any kind of limits on his girls in terms of knowing your position.
Yes.
You be the best version of yourself. You go out and get yourself educated, and you go for the top.
Mm.
And that has really helped me at times when I feel like giving up, because I have him who will call and say, so what's the next step? So he's like on my shoulder, just kind of pushing me forward, always encouraging, always praying for me. He's my prayer warrior, you know, he prays for me. And he'll say to me, the God that has taken you so far will take you all the way.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And that kind of influence in your life is very powerful. So as a young girl, I knew that he was a head teacher. So I'm not impressed by status and people's positions, because my dad was a head teacher. The students at SYLBOURNE Secondary and then Petersfield Comprehensive, when he was at SYLBOURNE Secondary, they used to just, any problems with him, they take it out on us. So we were very aware of our position, that people kind of had expectations on us. So you had to deliver, you know, you had to just get yourself, you know, the ambition was there, and the foundation was set.
You know, just listening to you there, and it seemed like that stage was set for you as a person, as an individual, not knowing where you're going to end up, but you were setting the stage. And now you're in the UK now. How hard would you say that you push yourself? Even though I think
very hard.
I think I could have answered that question, but I wanted to say it.
Yeah. I am my own worst critic. Well, I was. Yes. I've stopped being too harsh on myself. So, you know, when people are looking for external validation and other people's opinion to make them feel that they can, I know I can. So I'm my harshest critic. I used to critique everything overly, over the top. And when I say I push myself, so if I'm doing a diploma, before I finish that, I'm planning the degree. Before I finish the degree, I'm planning the master's. I was always on that, like an energizer bunny, keep going. And it's only over in the last couple of years, after having children and after attaining a certain status, that I realized that I can take down a gear and learn to unwind, because it's important for us to learn to unwind. And it took my health to kind of put my focus in the right way. So I started having all kind of symptoms, and you know, the doctors who kind of told me at the time I was doing a PhD, I've had to stop. I have 2 masters, so I shouldn't be too greedy. So it's just knowing that there are certain things in life that are important, and it's understanding that, you know, the simple things of quality of life, health and well-being is really important, you know. As much as we want to be the best version of ourselves, we need to have balance. We need to have checks and balances to kind of know, you know what, I'm not going to do anything today, and I'm not going to feel guilty about it either. So when it comes to pushing myself, I push myself out of my comfort zone a lot, and I think that is important. I don't believe in a box. I think it's important for us to push ourselves. So if you don't feel comfortable doing things like this, coming to talk to SYLBOURNE, you should try and go and talk to SYLBOURNE. Put yourself in those uncomfortable positions to get better. That's the only way.
You know, when you mention about that, there's no limit, because I tend to, I don't know if you saw my stuff where I change things up all the while. I don't like the word limit. And I said, well, what is this limit? The sky's the limit. I said, I don't like that. I changed it. I said, the sky's the start.
The sky's the start.
And I've been using that. And a friend of mine said, they were talking to her daughter, and her daughter said, the sky's the limit. And she said, no, SYLBOURNE says the sky's the start. SYLBOURNE said there's no limit. And I believe if we understand that and we recognize where God is actually taking us, and God is not giving us any limits. So where did we get this word limit from?
I agree. And you know, God makes no mistakes. Sometimes when we don't understand where our life is going, you see, when you look back at the journey, you realize that He was positioning you, and He was giving you certain experiences for you to get certain wisdom. So when you look back, you see that it all fits. But at the time, and this is where you have to make sure that you surround yourself with people like Marla Webster. She's an angel. You surround yourself with people like those who kind of say, yeah, man, you can do it. Good for you. And people are happy when you succeed.
Yes.
I don't have any time for bad mind. You see, bad mind, you see, as a Maroon, as somebody who is very proud to be a Maroon, the worst thing you can do to me is bad mind me and try to put me in a box.
Yes.
Trust me, I'm going to show you.
Yes.
Okay, you want to box me in? Watch this. It's like, you know, people saying, oh, well, I don't think you can do it. Watch me. I'll show you. Because I just don't feel that we're not pigeons in us for people to pigeonhole us. Who are you to try to tell me that this is my lane? When God is telling me that He has opportunities for me over there.
So I'm going to drop the Jamaican saying, Sefe, touch me.
Man, I tell you, it is something in us, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, so you're going there, sir. Oh, all right then.
Touch me now. Touch a button. Touch a button. Touch a button. Touch a button.
Yeah, come touch it.
Now that's very interesting. But I want to talk about the poetic bit side of you and your healing arts. But before I do that, I just want to touch on briefly about what's your thoughts during the pandemic and that bit and your profession, you know, because we're still there. I just wanted to get your views. Even though you said you're on the front line, but still at the same time, you're at a strategic leadership angle still, and it involves everyone, even if a person not in the nursing profession, you still have to be involved, but you're in the nursing profession. What was it like, Nichole?
What, you mean the pandemic?
Yeah, your views on it and how.
Well, you know, you have to take it in stages, because wave one, right? So you had March, where you started hearing that this thing is likely to become a pandemic. Because remember, first of all, it was in China. Everybody in the West felt they were safe.
Yes.
Yeah. Until we realized that we started having cases, until we realized that people getting ill. Then when it started disproportionately affecting people from a Black minority ethnic background, it got scary. It got scary to the point where we didn't know why it was affecting us more than other people.
Yes.
So people were fearful. I was supporting people who were on the front line in hospitals who were calling me up and saying, my God, I feel like I'm going to die, getting diagnosed with COVID. And then it was a case where it was chaotic. So the response to it wasn't as coordinated. And we expect that because it's a novel virus. But it was scary in terms of, will I be next? How will we cope? Lack of PPE, all of that drama that we had. And then on the news, there was a time when I couldn't even bother to watch the news. I couldn't cope with watching the news. Because as a nurse, you know, when you're trained to be a nurse, you want to be on the front line. It's like a soldier.
Yes.
A war is going on, and you can't go and support your troops.
Your comrades, yeah.
So there was that guilt that I had personally. But how I coped with that was I started a vlog where I started to kind of give some kind of words of encouragement.
Yes.
But the toll that it has taken on nursing and nurses, especially people from a Black minority ethnic background, we don't know the extent of it, you know, because people have trauma that they're dealing with, and we need to make it safe. We need to have that psychological safety where people feel free to say, you know what, I'm not coping. We don't want one person watching this to be not coping and feel that they can't come forward out of fear of the repercussions. So we want to encourage people that if you're suffering, there are people like me who will listen, who will signpost you to the different resources and support that is out there. That is important. As we head towards, because every time we think, we're getting to the end of COVID, we have a new variant. Now we have the Indian variant. We have 8 areas in the UK that are under, you know, higher levels of surveillance and search testing. Who knows if we're going to hit the target of the 21st of June with the lockdown and all of that. That is causing unnecessary anxiety for people. And when you are on the front line, you know, and you get the vaccine and people say they're not sure the vaccine work with variants, there's still a lot of uncertainties that's causing stress. So as a leader, it's for me to really advocate and support and make sure that the measures are there to support staff. And that if they feel unsafe, they come to me and I have their back.
No, that's very powerful there, Nichole, and thanks for that, because I can imagine the sort of chaotic, traumatic, and the psychological impact it may have had on nurses. Because
Yes.
my good friend Dr. Burton, who comes on my show regular, and talk about, and I was listening something the other day that doctors have been committing suicide. I didn't know that, because we see a doctor there. It's like movies.
Yeah.
In movies, when there's war, there's chaos or anything, earthquake, you always see the doctors there. You always see nurses. It's like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
They seem never to have any problem. They're always there.
Yes. And that is where we are not superheroes. We are human beings with feelings. And remember, over a career, you'll be exposed to death. But when
Yes.
it's for such a condensed period and that level, it takes a toll on you, because we come into this because we're kind and caring people. We come into the caring professions because we want to do good. And when you feel that your best wasn't good enough, it takes a toll. So yes, you will find that there will be additional mental health needs for doctors, nurses, anyone who's on the front line.
Wow.
We have to put that in place, because we have to make it safe for people to ask for help.
Yes, yes. No, that is very powerful, and thanks for explaining that. And for persons who are listening, one should recognize that, of course, should not suffer in silence.
No.
Because as you know me, what I've been doing is walking and talking, and
Yes.
and every time I go to the nurse the other day said to me, "What's going on, Mr. Sydial?" So what do you mean? You've lost weight from 98 kilos to 91, because I was diagnosed as pre-diabetic.
Wow.
And because of that, my coping mechanism, Nicole, was eating cakes. That was, when and David and those guys, we had a show, and they said, "What do you call?" I said, "My code is eating cake." So when the doctor said about the pre-diabetic with the sugar and all those sort of things, man, the cake, man, that was hard.
Everything in moderation.
Yeah, but I did it, and I cut it down, the fruit cake and all those. I cut it down completely, to the point that I spoke to them on Wednesday, and that's why I value the nurse, value the doctors, because they have been kindly calling me regular, and said I was now 42 from the scale from 52 to 42 diabetic.
Wow.
Which and the doctor, when she called me, she said to me, now, I don't want to get carried away. I want to still keep in that zone still, and keep doing what you're doing. But when she said keep doing what you're doing, it reminded me of one of the quotes which I created while I'm walking. And it says, if you tap into something that is working, go boost mode. And boost mode is BOOST mode. And when you think about the Fast and Furious, ladies and gentlemen, who was watching this inspiring moment, Fast and Furious is that they go on for a while, and then Tyrese and Vin Diesel, then after a while they lift up that thing and press that button, and that's it.
Boom. Oh yes, definitely.
So that's my boost mode. Tap into something that is working, go boost mode. So now I want to set the stage about your poetry, because there's this other side of it, this other flamboyant side.
Yeah.
Healing arts,
Yeah. I have a poem here that I'll read in a second, but I started writing poetry without realizing I was writing poetry. So I'm an introvert, so a lot of thoughts in my head. And in 2016, I just got up on Saturday and said, I'm going to start blogging, because I was going through an emotional time in the NHS, and I needed to get my thoughts out. Once I write it, I feel it's out of my system. I can relax. And I started writing poetry, but it's only when I met Yasser Safari online, and he said, do you do poetry? And I said, no. He said, well, I think you should. I think you should think about poetry. And I went back over my blog, and I found that I had been writing some poetry, but you don't give yourself the label of poet.
Yes.
So I like poetry because there is a poetic license in poetry where you're free to kind of say what you feel, because it's poetry, and I have a right of freedom of speech.
Yes.
As long as I'm not offending people, I'm not being racist or offensive, to say how I feel. So I talk a lot about things that people might not expect me to. I talk about race. I talk about discrimination. I talk about why we're strong. I have a poem here called We Are Strong. And it's about, I wrote this last summer after the George Floyd killing and the awakening that happened with Black Lives Matter and all of that. And it's reminding us that we're strong people, and sometimes we get into the position where we start to feel weak because we see no changes and all of that. The changes are happening fast enough. So we start to feel weak, but actually we are from kings and queens in Africa. We're not from slaves, we're from kings and queens. We were enslaved, but we are not born of slaves. So it's important for us to remember that we are strong. So this poem, SYLBOURNE, I'm going to read it for you if you have a few minutes.
Please, go ahead.
And it's called We Are Strong. So we are strong. You rely on that fact to hide the realities that are in your face. We are strong. But at what cost to our physical, emotional, psychological, or social well-being? We are strong. We know we have to be, or we are finished before we've even begun. We are strong. We have to prepare our children to face yours. We are strong. We get up, show up, and pioneer. We are strong. We know that the change that we have been waiting for is us. We are strong. Scratch that. We are stronger than we've ever been. We are strong because we've always been strong. That is from my Healing Art series. And one day, you never know, one day I might just write a poetry book and I'll put my poetry on there. So it's important for us to remember that we are strong.
I muted myself a while ago, sorry.
Okay.
So thank you for that. So therefore, if one is to ask you then, what is your favorite quote that helps you get going? Because yes, you'll be in the trenches, and yes, and you rightly say at times you're low. What would you say are those words?
I think it's important to be true to yourself. So a quote that I really remember is that you are who you are when no one is looking.
Yeah.
When you're on your own and you're being your real self, that is you. And it's important for us not to have a facade, a mask that we wear. You are who you are when no one is looking.
Yeah.
And integrity is everything. So it's important for us to remember that.
Nichole, what you said right there is something that I've learned in my walk and talk motivational moments. Can I drop a plug? Ladies and gentlemen, follow my walk and talk motivational moments in the park every day. And if you miss one day or I miss one day, I just go the next day and I do all these motivational stuff. And one of the things that I found out walking is that it actually brings you in touch with yourself in a deeper way. And I say to people sometimes, try to walk with yourself only. Don't walk with anybody. Because when you're walking with somebody, you're not going to have that level of interaction with yourself and with God because you're distracted talking about the people.
Yes.
And walking with yourself at times is also a mirror because you're now in conflict and confrontation with yourself. And it reminds me of when I walk in the morning and I see the darkness, and then I see the sun start to come through, and it actually embraces the trees and the earth, and therefore there's no way out of it. And that is what I find also with walking.
Yes.
And then you come to who you are. I never forget this guy said to me one time, SYLBOURNE, oh SYLBOURNE, if only SYLBOURNE knows who SYLBOURNE is. Because a man has got to come to a point, or a woman, it'll be sexist, where they come to terms with who they are. Yes. And once they know who they are, then you become unstoppable. So what you're saying is all right.
Agreed. And, it's important for us to be true to ourselves because your health and your well-being will be enhanced when you accept who you are. As you say, you come to terms with who you are, and then you can work on being better, rather than having different versions of yourself.
Yes.
Bring your authentic self, man.
Yeah, man. I always say to people, I'm just a me, man. I'm a SYLBOURNE, man.
Exactly.
Nothing. I'm just straight to Ochi. I'm a Ochi, man. It's a Ochi, man. As we talk about Jamaica there, I had a show the other night with this young lady who was abused. And it's creating waves in Jamaica now because of the impact of that interview. What's your take on in Jamaica now regarding domestic violence, crime against women and children? Because you're from Jamaica, you're married, and there's a lot of things going on there. What's your take on home now with all these allegations with politicians and people?
But I think it's really tragic to see what's going on, to see the social and moral decay in Jamaica in terms of how women are being treated. I mean, violence is to be, punished as far as I'm concerned criminally, but I think this even goes beyond criminality. I think there is a mental health pandemic in the Caribbean, in certain
Yes.
parts of the world, and Jamaica is leading that in terms of, it's almost like we need to go back to how we socialize boys and girls from day one to
Yeah.
show respect for the female sex, in terms of, if you are in a relationship with a woman, you don't own the woman. She has
Yeah.
every right to end it if you're being obnoxious and being someone who is unattractive and she doesn't see a future with you. Who are you to say that if you can't have her, nobody else will? And I think we need to really think of it as a mental health issue. And parents need to grow their boys and their girls to respect each other. And where we see people slipping, we need to pull them up rather than say, oh yeah, he's always beating his wife. He's
Yeah.
always beating his girl. He always did. We need to say, actually, man, we don't tolerate that around here. You can't be doing that, because it could be you, it could be your daughter, it could be your wife, it could be your mother. We need to think about, not wait for it to happen at our doorstep for us to be involved. We need to speak out against it.
Yes. Yeah, you're right about that, because I was speaking to someone the other day and they said that even though even persons or men in the past who have been abusive to women, and while it's okay to say you forgive them, but they need to know that it was a crime, and they need to know that there's a punishment, because it also set the stage for others to recognize that this is what is going to happen to them.
Yes.
So don't feel too bad, because when you let them go, then the other persons now who are perpetrators will take that as if say, not now go on, man, not now go on.
Exactly.
So Jamaica's got
and you're right. If people feel that there is no repercussion, no consequence, no penalty for it, they just continue.
Yes.
And we need to change the way. And I think they're making some improvements in terms of police taking it seriously. But pressure is on the woman to come forward. There's a lot of pressure,
Yes.
There's a lot of pressure, and out of fear, she might not be in a position where she can. So I think, I won't even talk about that particular case that was on social media in terms of evidence with a member of parliament. But it is really worrying. It is terrible, and the forms of the abuse is so varied that it's almost a case, and what's happening with children and the abduction of children, abduction of girls as well. It is quite worrying, and I think the government there needs to do a lot more than what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, in wrapping up now, and before, in the last word, I mean, I love the interview. I could go on forever, but the time is upon us now. We say we're going to go 21:45, but
no, I just want to say, we have lots of people who are doing a lot of good work. Tony Kelly is someone in Birmingham as well, the diabetic ambassador, who is doing wonderful work, and we need to really highlight the work he's doing to ensure that other people are taking their health seriously. And he speaks in language that, normal people understand. So I think, I'm glad you have that lovely poster. That event is going to be happening soon. So I'd encourage people to check that out as well. But just to thank you for all the work that you're doing, SYLBOURNE. It's wonderful that we have Jamaicans on the global stage who are putting themselves forward and doing wonderful work in a multimedia age. It's wonderful to see.
No, definitely, man. As I say, we look about with Talawa, but
definitely.
But may I change up certain things, may I change up certain things. Look about with Talawa, little with big one, with big, what is it? With big broad, and what is the song go? Big
bad and broad.
Exactly, mad.
And as Admiral Bailey would say, them think we done, but we just come,
Exactly.
We're just starting out, man.
And there's a mad, cross, miserable. Sorry.
Oh man, that's bounty. Yeah.
So as I said, as a little quote which they have sometimes, don't put your hat where you can reach it. And I said, I got a little issue with that one as well, because we must put our hat where we can't reach it. So therefore we have to get a ladder, we have to go up on a step and try to reach it.
And get out of the comfort zone. Definitely. We should.
So Nicole, they mash up enough of them thing the star, you know, we mash up enough of the sayings. People like when I say the sky is the start, a lady said to me, that sounds a bit very presumptuous and arrogant. Why do you say the sky is the start? I said, listen, man, you might stop at the start, at the sky. And that's where I start.
Yeah, man, there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, you know,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yes. So listen, this person said, thank you for sharing, lovely interview. Thank you so much for
Thank
that.
you, Dan.
And ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you tune in to the show with Tony Kelly. And let me just read that a bit more. That is going to be on the Thursday, the 10th of June, virtual reunion activity at 7 to 8:30 p.m. Award-winning diabetes ambassador, activist, and advocate, socio-legal studies master degrees from the University of Birmingham. Join us to get the facts in order to prevent, manage, and control diabetes. Why are Black people 2 to 4 times more likely to develop diabetes than white people? Did you know someone in Britain is diagnosed with diabetes every 2 minutes? Did you know 2019, 4.2 million people worldwide died from diabetes? Why do some people call diabetes a touch of sugar? Is there a cure for diabetes? What is the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes? Question and answer session will follow. Join the Zoom. Well, Tony Kelly, I have delivered, so I can hear. Silburn, thank you, Silburn.
Yeah, man, Uncle Tony, man, definitely, definitely.
and I can say I would say one of the ways of actually beating diabetes, and I'll say one of the solutions is the walk and to do your exercise and lose weight, and you see some results from that. Nicole, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure is mine, and you have a great evening and all the best. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just do one more thing before Nicole goes, and that is if you would like to get in touch with Nicole, which I believe Nicole, you don't mind.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Our email is there at Nichole Mcintosh at iCloud. If you can always play the replay. Facebook, Nichole Mcintosh, and you can see some of our blogs and motivational moments as well. Instagram, Nicole, and website as well. Tell us about the website. What is on the website?
Oh, it tells you a lot about all the work I've done, including my academic publications. So yes, it's a more rounded view.
Yes.
Yes, a 360-degree view of all that I'm involved in. And it includes my business that I set up, which is Maroon Mindset Unlimited, a consultancy company. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, and tell us about that briefly, Maroon
Yes,
Mindset.
it's a consultancy company focused on equality, diversity, and inclusion to support people to have conversations that they might not necessarily have the confidence to have in a culturally competent way. So yeah, I'm working with the NHS mainly, but anyone who wants to hear more can contact me by the email.
And do you know why I ask these questions and why I put you on blast? Is because I've got this philosophy for guests that come on my show. I say the reason why I want you on my show is that as you rise, I rise with you.
Definitely. Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Rise together.
All the best, Nicole. Thank you very much.
Thank
and
you.
Have a wonderful evening. And all
You
the best.
too. Take care. Thank you, everyone.
Pleasure is mine. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining tonight on the SYLBOURNE Show and for that inspirational interview with Nichole Mcintosh, nurse with a purpose. As you can see, and you have said, you can watch the replay where you can see more and you can enjoy more of what she does. Follow her website, follow her on Facebook, follow her on Instagram as well. And of course, she's a Jamaican, full of fire and full of zeal and wanting to make a difference by being at the table. Instead of shouting from the corner, she's at the table. And also nurses, what I'm seeing is that nurses is not just those who are on the front line in the trenches and they are dealing with the patients, but also you got the nurses who are in strategic position, who are actually making sure that policies are in place to make it easy, because all the PP and all those sort of things, there had to be some strategic leadership, someone who is there who understands it. And as I said earlier, Churchill gets all the accolades for winning the war. We shall never surrender. But guess what? He has never been in the trench. He's been in the dungeon, at the war room, war cabinet, while the battlefield is by the soldiers. Think about that for a second. It's all working partnership and everything. So I want to thank you so much. Remember to like and subscribe to the SYLBOURNE Show on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and also the website as well, sylbourne.com. And also you can also check me out on my Anchor, which is the Walk and Talk Motivational Moments. And tomorrow night, Talk and Sip. Ladies and gentlemen, on Instagram, that is a special show which I have. Talk and Sip, which is on Instagram only, with 4 guests, because Instagram has now, so you can have 4 guests. O'Neill, Gaza, Alex, or whosoever. You can have up to 8 guests at different times. I wrote it. But tomorrow we want to talk on Jamaica. Tomorrow we want to talk about these old issues regarding leadership, as to when it is time to step down, when if somebody's accused of sexual impropriety against children, do they stay there or do they remove themselves while that is being sorted out? Is political parties and government is something entwined with personalities, or should or the government or the system should be above the personalities? I always say that the president is subject to the presidency. Barack Obama has found that out, and President Trump has found it out that no matter how you think you're powerful, but the presidency is most powerful, and the president is subject to the presidency. Is Jamaican government subject to the government or so? Anyhow, that is something we're going to talk about tomorrow night. So have a good night. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Peace out, and all the best. See ya. Bye-bye.